Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2023 film The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. It's a Shudder original and it's coming to Shudder on Friday, September 22nd. And I'm going to tell you off the bat, first of all, this is a no spoiler review, as they normally are when I'm putting these reviews out before they're coming to Shudder. Also, I do recommend this movie. I definitely recommend checking this one out for many reasons, which I'll end up laying out in this review. So, let's get into it. Written and directed by Bomani J Story, who wrote Rocksteady Row, which I have not seen. I don't know much about. And I'm just going to say right now, it is kind of mind-blowing to me that this is the first film that Bomani J Story has directed, because the direction is really good. The cinematography is really good. This movie really came together from a technical standpoint really well for someone who this is their first feature-length film. This person is someone to watch. Bomani J Story, I need more from this director. I 100% need more from this director. Again, this is a Shudder original coming Friday, September 22nd. Synopsis, without giving away too much, because I never want to give away too much with these synopses, if you watch the trailer for it, I'm sure you'll understand almost fully what the movie is. I haven't watched the trailer. I'm just making an assumption based off how trailers typically are. But synopsis, it's basically about a girl named Vicaria who is living in a bad neighborhood. She's got a lot of life trauma, a lot of grief that she's going through because of everything going on around her in life. But she's also a very smart person who is trying to have herself excel in life. Meanwhile, she's kind of working on something to help her deal with things, and it's a horror movie. Things go awry. And that's as much as I really want to say about it, because otherwise I'm going to start giving some stuff away, and obviously I don't want to do that. So anyway, that's my synopsis. The beginning sequence of the movie has a lot of impact and lets you know what this movie really is about. Now, when I say that, I mean it's not one of these kind of subtext movies. It's very much on the surface, and I know those can go either way typically, where you can be like, oh, it's actually still has a lot of impact even though it's not subtext, and sometimes it's like now you're just being beaten over the head too much with it. But I think this does a really good job of keeping it more in that other category where it works. It definitely, even though it's not subtext, it really does work, even though it's kind of in your face. And I think a lot of it has to do with the way it's written and kind of the emotion that's put into the movie itself. I think those things really help you kind of stop from feeling like the in-your-face aspect of it, instead of going subtext, is too much. So they did a good job with it. The uses voice... oh my gosh. My apologies. They use... typos. They use voiceover, and it does really well. It's just in the beginning, really, of the movie. And, this is coming from someone who is a big fan of kind of like emotional, impactful voiceovers, and you have that in the beginning. So that's a part of what I was talking about with the opening sequence having a lot of impact to it. That voiceover really works. And that's another thing, is like voiceovers don't always work. Sometimes people kind of really roll their eyes at voiceovers in movies. I do as well, if they're not used properly, or they're not, the voiceover scripting, the actual like dialogue of it is, or monologue of it, is not written properly. But this does a good job of it, and it really does help enhance that stuff. I was hoping for some of that at the end as well, to kind of wrap things up, but they didn't do that. It was just in the beginning. So if you hate voiceovers, just know it's only in the beginning, and that's the only time you have to deal with it, but I enjoyed it. The main character is very well written. Actually, a lot of the characters are well written, but the main character in particular, which is obviously important because that's who you want people to really identify with. That's who you want people to find the most interesting, obviously. But it's not all that. It's not just that the main character is very well written. It's also that the acting is so great, and that is Laya DeLeon Hayes, or Leia DeLeon Hayes. I'm sorry, I'm not 100% which way the pronunciation is, but she did a phenomenal job. She brings a lot of charm to the role. She doesn't just do the job. She goes beyond and brings so much life and interesting aspects to the character itself. And like I said, there's so much charm. She is a magnetic character when she's on the screen. I also have to give a shout out to Denzel Whitaker, who I loved in his role. He was great. I want to see more of him. I want to see more of Hayes. There's some really good acting in this. And those two are kind of the two most important people in the movie. So it makes sense that they are such strong characters and such strong actors. So love that about it. The characters have a lot of raw emotional moments in the movie. So be prepared for that. I mean, you will probably kind of see that coming based off how the movie begins. So just be prepared because it's an emotional movie. It has a lot of impact to it. But it's in a good way. It's important for that reason. There's some nice practical effects and some solid gore that ends up getting used in it. It's not super over the top with it. So if there are people out there watching this who are like, I don't know, I don't do that well with gore. It's not super over the top, and it's appropriate for how it is used, in my opinion. But it looks good. They did a great job pulling off the practical effects. They did a good job with, decent looking gore. So always looking for that with horror movies. Again, the movie's shot very well. It looks awesome. You're not going to have any issues with camera work that's too shaky or shots that look kind of weird and off kilter or anything like that. My only issue, and it's very, very slight, with how the movie looked is there were a decent amount of moments where there was a bunch of lens flare with light sources and also issues with light sources where it's like it looks fuzzy around it. And I know that was a conscious choice, but I just don't think those things look good. And they are also things that are kind of commonly thought of as very amateurish, which, this is this individual's first feature-length film. So they kind of get a pass on that, but I am bringing it up because I bring up everything that I see in films. So the score, I think, is very well composed, and it really does enhance the movie quite a bit. So big fan of that. It just sounds great. It works so well in matching all the sequences that it's matched up with. Excellent job on that. There's a lot of, I literally talked about that, the lens flare and the fuzzy light. They build really good creepy dark atmosphere, and they maintain it pretty well throughout the entire movie. They establish the atmosphere really well, and it has a certain look and feel to it, and it doesn't break. It goes through the entire film, and that's not easy to do, really. It really, really is not easy to do. The pacing is quite good for a large portion of the film, but unfortunately, it really kind of slows down towards the end when it should really be picking up even more. So that's probably my major issue with the movie, is that once you're kind of going into that third act, it really instead of accelerating to the point where you feel like it probably would or should, it kind of stagnates a little bit. It starts to get the pacing kind of off. And I don't 100% know how I feel about the ending. I guess I would say the ending is decent, but I kind of felt like it was building towards something even better, even more impactful, and it just didn't quite get there for me. And I think part of it is it took too long. They kind of stretched out the ending too much. And this isn't a long movie. It's like an hour. I think it's like an hour and 34 minutes with credits. So it's not super long. It's not going to take up a lot of your time. But like I said, for the most part, the pacing is really good for it. It's just when they kind of go into the end, and that was kind of a bit of an issue for me. This movie is an obvious update to a very old story, but it definitely has its own voice and its own unique feel and look to it. And this is one of those things, which is, if you're going to use material that's been used before, especially material that's been used a lot before like this, you have to have something different. You have to have enough of a different setting. You have to have enough different characters. You need to be saying something different. It needs to stand out and be unique in some sort of way. And this one 100% does that. So it's not one of those installments where I'm just like, okay, why are we doing this? It has a purpose. So I thought it was a great concept, and I thought it came together pretty well. This, like I kind of hinted in the beginning of this video, this deals a lot with trauma and grief, which obviously that's something that's used a lot in horror movies, but I like the way they use it in this, and I like how they marry it with that material that they're mining for it. So it really, it works for me. Like I said, I do recommend this one. Out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm going to give it a very good 3.5 star rating, although consider, just know that I considered giving it 4 stars, but the ending issue is what kind of bumped me down to the 3.5. But even then, when it bumped that down, I was still like, do I go 3.5? Do I go 4? I'm still kind of between. So I am officially going to say 3.5, but know that I was pretty close to the 4. So that'll give you a good idea of how much I do recommend this movie. So this is where I want to hear other people's opinions on the movie. Go ahead and put it in the comments if you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you're in between, and just give me like a sentence or two letting me know why. Do me a favor though, hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't at this point. I really do appreciate that. I'm doing this for basically nothing. It's just, I do like doing it, but it is nice to kind of have people repay me with, subscribing, because it doesn't cost you anything. It's something easy you can do to just kind of show your support. Also, hit the notification bell button, because then you'll know when I'm putting up new videos. And if you would like, you can, do the little thumbs up like thing, and that could help me with algorithms and whatnot. But regardless, I do appreciate you taking your time to watch this. And until next time, keep it brutal.